Now to start off, you take the motherboard out. I'll just take these pieces of paper out and put them here. Important note, the anti-static bag the motherboard is in is not anti-static on the outside, so you want to be careful not to rest your motherboard on that, because it could damage it. However, most components these days are pretty safe. You don't really need to worry too much about static shocks unless you're running around on the carpet floor in socks, like I am now. So a good place to put the motherboard is just on the motherboard box. Now, getting to our RAM, just take the RAM out, keep the case badge because they look cool. One, and now you just put them in their design slots. DDR-A1, put one in there. Note that the little indent is not in the center, so you can only put the RAM in one way, so don't force it. That would be bad, forcing it. So you just drop the inset slot, apply a little bit of pressure, and then it should click in nicely like that. It's now plugged in. Grab the other slot. You want to make sure what slots you're putting them in, so if you can see there are two red ones. Those are the two, or you could put them in two black ones, it doesn't really matter. However, this motherboard prefers if you're doing two RAM sticks, put them in the two red ones. Also, because we all know red makes things go faster. So yeah, you can apply a little bit of pressure, don't worry, you're not going to break the board too easily. So now we get to our CPU installation. We can just first find out how the box opens. There we are. And inside you have a stock heatsink with pre-applied thermal paste. So just take that out, like so. Place it there. Be careful not to touch the thermal paste. It's got a plastic covering, so it's not going to be easy to do. Just be aware that that is there. And then you slide out the CPU. CPU there. Now to put the CPU in, just unlock that. There's a piece of plastic there and it will pop off once we place the CPU in. Now to put the CPU, this is the most dangerous part of the build. If you stuff it up, you're going to have to either buy a new motherboard or a new CPU. Intel CPUs don't have pins on the CPU, they have them on the motherboard. However, that can also be a bad thing, because the motherboards generally aren't looked after as closely. Now, if you look on the CPU, it's got two indents on both sides. You line them up with the two indents on the socket, and you just drop it in, like so. Let's make sure it's in. You can place the bracket on again. And this should just pop off. Pop. And there is the CPU installed into the CPU bracket. Now, to place said CPU cooler, very simple. Intel ones are harder than AMD ones, I found. I don't know why, they just decided to be annoying about it. You just want to orientate it to a favourable position. And I believe they have to be like that. They must all be turned the wrong way. So where the arrow is, you must turn them already. And then just place CPU cooler on top like that. And turn. Do them crossed ways from each other so the thermal paste has a nice spread. Out of the way. It's a little bit fiddly. Just take this RAM stick out so I don't damage it. Probably should do it on the CPU first, but it doesn't really matter. There. That one's not clicked. You pretty much know when it's in or not, and yep, they're all in. Just push that one to make sure it's in completely, and you should be able to pick up the motherboard from the heatsink, which is actually a pretty safe place to pull it, because the motherboard's stronger in that area for that reason. Okay, so now that that's all installed, and that's all you need to do for the motherboard part of the installation. Okay, now for a really fun bit. Always so difficult. Oh yeah, that was good. Probably shouldn't have done that until later, but oh well, who cares. Just place this somewhere where it won't get damaged. Keep hold of the screws, because it's very unfortunate when you lose them. And now, first things first, you look on the motherboard to see where the motherboard ATX pins are. Because remember, this is an ATX board, so you have to look where the ATX pins are. And they seem to all be in place, apart from this middle one, which is weird. But oh well, who cares? Now, placing that one there, we can get our Corsair box of bits, and we can get our I/O panel shield and our screwdriver. Doesn't really matter what order you do this. Actually, it does. You have to put the I/O shield in first, so it does matter. And if I can open the box, the packaging of the I/O shield, that would be great. Stuff out of nylon. Now, not hard to do. Just go in from the back and click it in. Nothing difficult. You just keep pushing until it clicks. It's a piece of metal. It bends. That's okay. If it bends one way, you bend it back the other. There. That is now in. Click. Make sure it's not going to move anywhere, and that is done. Now, in our little bag of bits, we have some very convenient cable ties, which will be very handy later. You have some fan screws, some nice big black fan screws. You have some tiny little hard drive / optical disk drive screws. You have some very, very, very small screws, which I'm not sure what they are for. Something important, I'm sure. You have 4 more screws for optical disk drive. You have some very long screws for a radiator or double fans. And you have, that's what it would be. You have the other little connector for the ATX bit. I shall be back in a second to unscrew that middle one. Okay, the great thing about this case in particular is it's very easy hard drive cases. All you need to do is grab them, it's slightly bendy, take them out and get your hard drives. Here's our solid state drive. I have no knife, so I shall struggle immensely to get the sticker off. Struggle, struggle, struggle. Struggling some more. Okay, I give up on the struggling. I'm just going to use a knife that was conveniently located. There, all that struggling for nothing. And here comes. There's the solid state drive. Right there, solid state drive. You have a whole bunch of other things. You have 2 case badges because Samsung's not stingy. They give you 2 instead of 1. And you have a whole bunch of stuff and some very, very, very handy programs that let you copy operating systems over if you currently have one installed. However, because this will be a fresh install, we don't need it. Now, we're going to install our solid state drives on said cage like so, just like that. The center facing that way, so all the starter cables around the back. So I shall struggle, and I shall struggle some more, I might add. And ooh, I've remembered what the mini screws are for. They're for hard drive. They're for solid state drive screwing. So I shall place this down so I don't damage it. Try not to destroy the case with my screwdriver. This is quite hard to do, as you can tell. Must be a trained professional to screw in screws. Screw number 1. It's always getting the first one in, then it comes easier. Number 1 is in. Screw number 2. Number 2 is in. I think it's 2 more to finish the job. Sorry about this. I'm not particularly brilliant at screwing in screws, it seems. And there we go, there is our hard drive, nicely screwed in and ready to go. So then we can just plug it back in here, and there, that is hard drive installed. There. Now, same thing for the hard drive. I'm sure you don't need to see me do it again, I don't want to waste any more of your time. Okay, so now we're doing putting the graphics card in. So, as you can see, it's a box. Here is our graphics card, which I'll place there. And is there anything in here at all? And there's nothing in there. However, there is a hidden box underneath the other box. We can chuck that box away now. And inside this box, you have some very handy Molex 2 6-pin PCIe for your thing, and you have 2 of them, which is good. You have a crossfire cable, which is also very good. You have a very strange looking DVI to VGA adapter. You have a case badge and a installation CD, and you have your warranty stuff. We're not going to need any of them, I don't think. We might try out the crossfire later, but that's all we're going to do for now. Is the important bit. Now, first of all, make sure that lines up with that. So I need to take out these 2 PCIe brackets. Number 1. Number 2. Just put them out. Keep them for some reason, in case you decide you don't want a discrete graphics card. I don't know, trying to save the earth. And here is our graphics card, our Dual X custom heatsink for our card. Yep, looks good. Looking very good. We'll just take off the plastic protection. So it can be quite difficult to do later. All you need to do is grab the card and drop it in. Ooh. Wait a second, I forgot to do something funny. Different cases have different weird little things. Thank God they designed that way though, because I would not want to have to unscrew every PCI bracket. Unscrew. Two screws. There we are, this should make it much more easy. Now, if you look on the graphics card, just a side note, you'll see that it has a DVI, dual-link DVI connector, a normal DVI connector, a HDMI and a DisplayPort out. For 4K gaming at 60Hz, 4K is a double, or no, a huge time higher than HD. You need to use the DisplayPort at 60 frames a second. And you know that adapter we saw earlier, that DVI to VGA adapter? That will only work when you plug it into the dual-link DVI adapter because of connections and stuff. So just a quick note to note. Yeah, easy as this to install. I know I'm making it look difficult, but it is actually very easy. If you hear crackling, that's okay. Actually, no, it's not okay. You should probably stop and make sure it's not plugged in. So there we are, there's our graphics card installed. Those are the only cards we shall be installing today, so we can just screw everything up. Okay, so now to install our power supply, you cut delicately there. This is a careful bit, and you just rip the plastic off because it's only plastic and you're not going to use it ever again. Now around the back, do they have a seal here? No, they don't. It's always good fun to discover how people design their packaging. Carefully. You have a manual, it says stuff, don't need to know. You have a power cable. You have some nice black screws for the power supply. And you have the power supply itself. Nothing else in the box. Goodbye. These are very neatly organised power cables. Some other power cable people, who shall remain nameless, tend not to wrap up their cables, so when you open it, it's kind of like an explosion of cables. And they've even gone so far as to braid some of the cables. Only some of them. The 24-pin and the PCI Express, it seems. But, oh no, the CPU power supply. But anyway, points for trying, I should say. And now, as you can see on here, the case, it has a intake grill at the bottom here. So that's if the CPU is going to be under high load and it's going to be struggling a bit. You're going to want to put the fan that way so it can just suck air in easily and go out the other way. However, I reckon that's what we're going to do because it's going to make this look better as opposed to having it upside down. However, if that's not necessary, you can always have it this way and it will provide some more airflow out of the case. But because we're all for looks here, we're just going to chuck it in this way. Not chuck, place gently. It's just being placed gently. And now we can just go ahead and screw it in with said screws. It's my screwdriver. Okay, so from this point we are ready to do our cable management, the good fun part of the build. Now, some cases don't have the other side come off. This case is a good one, so it can have the other panel removed. So you've got your front panel, but you've also got your back panel. And this makes cable management a lot better and greater because you can hide stuff. So as you can see, like so. Just move the desk away from the wall a bit so we can get around it. So generally what you want to do is have everything come around the back here and just poke out into the motherboard when it has to. So first off, we're going to undo all of the cables here and chuck them around the back. Don't even care. Like you don't even care. So first of all, we do our motherboard. Don't fall off, that would be bad. Our CPU power. Our Molex and SATA and fun stuff, pluggies, thingies that we're not going to use, so they're going to stay around the back for ages. Yeah. The cables we are going to use, the SATA ones, chuck them around there. And finally our graphics card. See how much better does that look already. Now, so I'll come around the back here. First of all, where you look for a good place to put said CPU cable, and the best would be to go up top here, and then the motherboard. Best. We can get these through around the back as well first, so we can just see everything we're playing with. There. Now we can put our motherboard power through there. You come around this side, and all you have to do is first make sure the motherboard pins are connected up, and plug them in. It can be a little fiddly, but you can manage. Is now plugged in completely. Yep. And now we can come around up the top of our CPU, and again it can be a little fiddly, but don't force it too much. But it's not as weak as a baby, so don't be too careful with it. Them in there like so. It's not going to use this much power, but might as well plug them in, because why not? And okay, just make sure it's nice like that. That one goes straight into the hole. And now we've come to our power supply, our graphics card power. This graphics card is quite good actually, because all it requires is two 6-pin, and they are right at the back, so you can literally just go 1 and 2. Just hide the little 8-pin connectors, and that one can come along there, right in there. Yep. And then just chuck that around the back Okay, so that looks good. Got lots of power. Now the front panel headers are much more irritating. It's just because they are painful. It's just how they've been designed to be. Irritating and painful. We'll plug the case fan in first. If it's long enough, because if it's not, that will be awkward. And it is. There is a very convenient 4-pin chassis fan right there. So we'll put this one through. Put it up in there. So that looks much better. There we go. There's our case fan here. And the USB 3 cable can go in separate way, but all the rest can go in through the bottom here. Anyway, you don't need to see me plug these in, so we'll just skip on to another bit of the build. Okay, so guys, we've just done the cable management. We're not going to go over how to plug things into other things, because you should know how to do that. If it doesn't look like it goes there, it probably doesn't go there. And the most important thing, never force things when you're plugging in cables. Never go as hard as you can. Be firm, but not evil to them. So we have now powered on the system, and well, first thing, let's see if I plugged in the front panel headers correctly. Seems good so far. Nothing too angry. The CPU fan's not spinning crazily at us. And I think it worked. It is a success. So we'll plug in and monitor, install the operating system, and then we'll do some benchmarks to see how that goes. Now that we know everything turns on, we're going to first make sure that it is actually working and it's not coming up with hundreds of error messages on the screen. And then we're going to install our operating system, Windows 8 Pro. Now, I know a lot of people hate Windows 8. I personally think it's a great operating system for laptops that have touchscreen and tablets. It's brilliant for them. For desktops, it didn't really add anything and it just made everything a lot more difficult. So, it's a good operating system, you just have to learn how to use it again. So they pretty much made it a more difficult user experience, but once you do know how to do it, it's just as good, if not better, than Windows 7. So, yeah, we're going to turn on the computer and see how that goes. Seems happy. Insert a proper boot device. So we shall insert our Windows 8 disk. Press the key. It's a pretty quiet computer. I say that and then the disk drive spins up. So yeah, we're probably just going to fast forward this a bit and enter some nice music.